Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner's romance was the stuff of Hollywood legend, fiery, intense, and impossible to ignore. Their affair began in 1949 while Sinatra was still married to Nancy Barbato, igniting a media frenzy that captured the public's imagination. Gardner, known for her bold beauty and fierce independence, captivated Sinatra immediately. The intensity of their connection led to Sinatra's divorce and their eventual marriage in 1951, setting Hollywood abuzz. Their union was never calm. Arguments and jealousy were a constant backdrop to their glamorous life, often spilling into the press. Gardner was fiercely independent, refusing to be overshadowed by Sinatra's fame. Sinatra, for his part, was known for his possessive streak, and their passionate arguments became almost as famous as their love. One incident that has been recounted many times involved Gardner's brief affair with bullfighter Luis Miguel Dominguin. Sinatra's reaction was explosive. He tracked her to Spain and confronted her, a scene that nearly turned violent. Despite the chaos, there was undeniable love. They shared moments of deep connection, laughter, and intimacy that only those in the eye of Hollywood's glittering storm could understand. Their relationship was a perfect storm: intense passion, mutual admiration, and public scrutiny. Each public appearance carried the weight of gossip and speculation, yet both thrived in their own ways on the attention. By the mid-1950s, however, the strain of their differences began to show. Sinatra's jealousy and Gardner's desire for independence clashed repeatedly. Their marriage, while deeply passionate, became unsustainable, ultimately ending in separation in 1957. Still, the bond they shared left an indelible mark on both their lives, shaping Sinatra's music and Gardner's legendary Hollywood persona. It was a love story that burned brilliantly and left the world fascinated. And their eventual reflections decades later would reveal truths even more shocking. Decades after their turbulent marriage, Frank Sinatra, at the age of 82, finally revealed a confession about his relationship with Ava Gardner, one that stunned fans and historians alike. By this point in his life, Sinatra had already weathered countless rumors, affairs, and public dramas, but the passion and heartbreak he experienced with Gardner remained unforgettable. The confession wasn't merely a stroll down memory lane, it was a candid acknowledgement of mistakes, jealousy, and the intensity of a love that had defined him. Sinatra admitted that his possessive streak and occasional inability to trust had fueled many of the arguments that marked their time together. Gardner's independence and spirited nature, which had drawn him in initially, also became a source of tension. He reflected on how her brief affair with bullfighter Luis Miguel Dominguin had set off a chain of emotions that neither could fully contain. These feelings, he admitted, had caused pain for both of them and, at times, led to confrontations that left lasting scars. Yet Sinatra also emphasized the depth of his love for Gardner. Even in the midst of arguments, jealousy, and scandal, there was an undeniable bond. He described moments of tenderness, shared laughter, and the kind of connection that only comes from a relationship fueled by intense passion. At 82, Sinatra's voice carried a weight of regret and understanding, blending the wisdom of age with the raw emotions of a man who had lived and loved intensely. This confession added a new layer to the public's understanding of their story. It wasn't just a tale of Hollywood glamour and scandal. It was a window into the human side of Sinatra, the man behind the legend. His words revealed that the love and heartbreak he experienced with Gardner had stayed with him long after the cameras stopped rolling and the headlines faded. And what he revealed at 82 would surprise even those who thought they knew everything about Frank and Ava. As Sinatra approached the final years of his life, he grew increasingly reflective about the relationship that had defined much of his youth. At 82, he openly discussed Ava Gardner, not with the bravado of a young star, but with a mixture of candor, regret, and enduring affection. The confession wasn't about reliving the past for gossip. It was about finally acknowledging the truth of their tumultuous bond. Sinatra admitted that, despite the arguments, jealousy, and heartbreak, Gardner had been one of the great loves of his life. He spoke about the intensity of their passion, describing a love that burned hotter and faster than most could understand. Sinatra acknowledged the mistakes he had made, his possessiveness, moments of insecurity, and the way he let jealousy overshadow their connection. Yet he also highlighted Gardner's unwavering independence and strength, which had both attracted and challenged him. Their marriage was a storm, thrilling, exhausting, and unforgettable. The revelation at 82 painted a picture of a man who had lived fully and loved deeply. Sinatra reflected on how the public had seen only the surface, the glamorous appearances, the headlines, and the scandals. Few understood the private intensity, the late-night reconciliations, or the moments of quiet tenderness that existed amid chaos. By sharing these reflections, Sinatra offered a rare glimpse into the emotions of a man who had built his life in the public eye, but carried private regrets and longings that were deeply human. Fans and historians were stunned. Sinatra, known for his charisma and charm, had revealed vulnerabilities rarely seen before. The confession reminded the world that beneath the legend was a man profoundly affected by love, longing, and the mistakes of his youth. His reflections served as both a personal catharsis and a compelling narrative that reshaped the story of one of Hollywood's most iconic romances. The love story of Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner left an indelible mark on both their lives and Hollywood history. Their whirlwind romance, passionate marriage, and dramatic separation became the blueprint for the kind of cinematic love story that fans could never forget. But beyond the public scandals, what truly endured was the emotional imprint they left on each other. Sinatra's music, especially songs like "I'm a Fool to Want You" and "Don't Worry About Me," carried echoes of the heartache, longing, and intensity of their relationship. Gardner, meanwhile, carried the memory of Sinatra into her later years, reflecting on a love that had shaped her life in profound ways. Their story also revealed the challenges of fame. Both were larger-than-life figures, constantly under the glare of the media, with their every move scrutinized. Sinatra's confession at 82 showed how those pressures had compounded their personal struggles. The public saw scandal. They rarely saw the private heartbreak, the quiet longing, or the complex interplay of love and pride that defined their marriage. Their relationship serves as a reminder that the world's fascination with celebrity often overshadows the human emotions at the heart of even the most glamorous unions. Even decades later, their love story continues to resonate. Biographies, documentaries, and theatrical adaptations revisit their lives, offering new generations insight into the fire and complexity of their bond. Theirs wasn't a simple tale of passion or heartbreak. It was a narrative about how two strong, talented, and fiercely independent people could collide, ignite, and ultimately leave a lasting legacy in both personal and artistic realms. Sinatra's confession at 82 crystallized the enduring significance of their bond. It reminded fans that love, even when it ends in separation, can shape lives, influence art, and leave echoes that last a lifetime. Their legacy is not just in headlines or box office stories, it is in the songs, memories, and reflections that continue to capture the imagination of the world. One of the most surprising aspects of Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner's relationship was how candid Gardner became about it in later years, and how Sinatra, at 82, responded to those revelations. Gardner, never one to shy away from honesty, spoke openly about their passionate but turbulent marriage. She didn't just discuss their emotional highs and lows. She addressed the intimate aspects of their relationship, including candid comments about Sinatra's physical attributes. While some of her remarks were made with humor, they captured the intense personal connection that had existed between them. For Sinatra, these revelations were a mix of embarrassment, pride, and nostalgia. At 82, he reflected on the raw truth of their time together. How love could be both exhilarating and destructive, tender and volatile. He admitted that Gardner's boldness had sometimes shaken him, yet it was that very quality that had drawn him in and kept him enthralled. The combination of their passionate love and unavoidable clashes had left marks on both of them, shaping their personalities and their public personas for decades. This period of reflection allowed Sinatra to confront the complexities of their past without ego or performance. He acknowledged that while the media had sensationalized their fights and scandals, the reality of their bond was far deeper and more nuanced. Their love was not a fairy tale, but it was undeniably powerful. Even after decades apart, and despite Gardner's death, the intensity of their connection lingered, influencing Sinatra's music, his private life, and how he viewed love in his later years. These intimate revelations gave fans and historians a rare glimpse into the private world of two Hollywood legends. Sinatra's acknowledgement of Gardner's words at 82 humanized him, showing that beneath the public persona of the iconic singer was a man shaped, haunted, and transformed by one of the great loves of his life. Their story, full of passion, conflict, and candid truth, continues to captivate generations. The story of Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner reached its emotional climax in the final years of their lives, especially as Sinatra approached 82. By then, Gardner's health had declined, and reflections on their past grew more poignant. Sinatra's confession at this stage revealed a mixture of lingering love, regret, and the acceptance that some relationships, no matter how passionate, cannot be fully reconciled. He spoke with honesty about the mistakes, misunderstandings, and jealousies that had marked their marriage, acknowledging that while time had softened some wounds, the emotional impact of their bond remained vivid. Gardner's passing in 1990 marked the definitive end of an era. For Sinatra, even years after their separation, her memory continued to influence his life and music. Songs he performed in his later years carried traces of their love, melancholic notes echoing heartbreak, longing, and the lessons learned from their turbulent romance. His confession at 82 allowed the world to understand that the man behind the legend had been profoundly shaped by his relationship with Gardner. The final reflections emphasized the complexity of love between two strong, independent, and fiercely talented people. Their story was never simple. Public fascination had often reduced it to scandal or glamour, but in Sinatra's words, shared in his later years, the reality was layered, full of passion, mistakes, deep affection, and enduring influence. He admitted that love, even when imperfect and imperfectly remembered, leaves an indelible mark. This last acknowledgement transformed their narrative. It wasn't just a Hollywood romance. It was a tale of human vulnerability, the consequences of fame, and the lasting effects of a connection that neither distance nor time could erase. Sinatra's candid reflections at 82 offered closure, understanding, and a haunting reminder of how powerful, complicated, and unforgettable love can truly be. The love story between Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner was as passionate as it was turbulent, a whirlwind of glamour, emotion, and unforgettable intensity. From the fiery beginnings of their affair to the highs and lows of their marriage, and ultimately To Sinatra's candid reflections at 82, their relationship reveals the complexities of love lived under the unforgiving gaze of fame. It was a bond that shaped both their lives, influenced Sinatra's music, and left a lasting impression on Hollywood history. Sinatra's confession reminds us that even the most public figures carry private regrets, longings, and emotions that the world rarely sees. Gardner's independence and charisma challenged Sinatra, yet also inspired him, creating a connection that was impossible to ignore and impossible to forget. Their story teaches us that love is rarely simple. It can be exhilarating and painful, fleeting yet transformative. Even decades after their separation and long after Gardner's death, the echoes of their relationship continue to captivate fans. The confession at 82 gave insight into a man who had experienced extraordinary fame, power, and artistry, but who was never immune to the universal truths of the human heart. Their story endures as a testament to the intensity of love, the costs of passion, and the lasting influence of those we hold close, even when the world moves on.